Hello, everyone. Welcome to Breadcrumb. This is a podcast about the clues left by success and failure. I'm your host, Mary Galkowski, and today we are joined by the brilliant Brooke Budke, fractional CMO and founder and CEO of Momentum Brands. Brooke, it's so good to see you and to have you on the podcast.
Thanks, Mary. I'm happy to be here.
Awesome.
I love the name Breadcrumbs.
Oh, good. Okay. Before we dive into all the fun details about you and your journey, I would love to chat a bit about the super unique world, fractional CMOs. It's my understanding that you're essentially a marketing Swiss Army knife, but I'm really curious about how you balance everything, what you find most exciting about your role. So would like to start maybe by breaking it down. What to you does a fractional CMO actually entail?
First of all, I love the Swiss Army knife reference. I think that is pretty brilliant because when I think of Swiss Army, I think of the single tool that can get you out of any situation or the single tool that can help you make situations great. And I would definitely say that would frame up what a fractional CMO does, a CMO in general. Most brands that are, let's say, non-emerging, so 75 to 150 and beyond in units, would likely have a CMO or a VP of marketing in-house. Where the Swiss Army knife comes in a fractional capacity is working with someone like myself and Hallie, who is our fractional brand director, and partnering with emerging brands to be that Swiss Army knife that is both visionary and directive and strategy, as well as the tactical tools and documentations that the brands need in order to provide the training and resources for franchisees. So for me, you get a fraction of our time, but you get 100% of the intelligence. And that is one of the most important things that, in my opinion, emerging franchise brands need, because they need their resources and the intel, but they don't need the full-time staff, and they absolutely don't need the full-time salary.
Awesome. Okay, that's so interesting. And that totally makes sense that it's, you're geared more towards emerging franchise brands for sure.
We do some project-based work for established brands that don't need the full fractional CMO suite of services that we offer. However, in most cases, we see brands from 1 unit to 100 units that are knocking on our door saying, how can you help us? Teach us what you know. We want to grow faster, smarter, with less hiccups along the way. And we want to do it in our own unique way, like especially post-COVID, post-pandemic. I've seen so many emerging brands come into this space that are beyond unique from the brands that existed prior. And so they have this unique model, belief system, vibe, culture, but they don't know franchising and they don't know franchise scalability with marketing. And so that's where working with someone like us is great, because we take what they've already curated in their culture and then amplify it and then scale it and then teach them how to build the strategies the franchisees need and what to do internally and who to hire and, all of the advice that you wouldn't normally get and you would learn by failure instead.
That's incredible. So how many clients would you say or franchise brands can you typically work with at the same time?
It's a question many people ask, is how many is your limit? And I would say right now we currently have 4 brands in our portfolio today. I believe that there is really no limit in terms of who we can support in different capacities. So we have our fractional agreements, which are annual, and we work side by side directly reporting to and coaching the CEO, president, or founder. That's our primary bread and butter, what we do every single day. We are also rolling out new innovative products for the ultra emerging brand that doesn't need that directive yet, but they need some tools and guidance early on to get that momentum started in their business to eventually become a client. So we're also looking at what do the ultra emerging brands need to emerging, to established, and really providing resources for all of those different life cycles. Because in franchising, usually you're only as good as the team that you hire, and oftentimes marketers don't have franchise experience, but they have really good marketing experience. And so what we do is we're the CEO's secret weapon. We come in, we direct and advise the CEO, they direct and advise their team, and their team directs and advises the franchisees. Who I personally take and coach and we commit to is a limited number, but who we professionally are able to influence, there really is no limit to that based on the tools and templates we've created and the consulting, just standard consulting of time that I can still give people.
Okay, awesome. And so with those brands that are in your portfolio you mentioned, how do you prioritize/balance each of their unique needs?
So the beautiful part about specializing in franchising is every single brand needs every single same thing.
Yes.
They all need the same thing, and they just need them in different orders based on where they're at in their business. So when our bread and butter, you talk about breadcrumbs, what we are very, very, very skilled at are these 4 lanes. We do consumer marketing, franchise development, organic marketing, non-paid, like I'm not a digital expert like your team. We do consumer marketing, franchise development, organic marketing, grand opening marketing, and local store marketing. It's the main 4 that every single franchise brand needs in order to succeed. Where most people have work that's been done in the emerging category is consumer. They have the lens of here's our website, here's our social, here's some like light brand work of vision, mission, values. The number one reason they come to us, competing number one reason, is we need help selling franchise units and marketing our brand to potential franchisees, and we need help getting units open. So in the emerging category, local store marketing doesn't really come into play until a couple of years later because they don't have enough that are open to say, we need an annual marketing calendar like the established brands would. But every single emerging brand needs specific strategy on how they curate their message, which is consumer marketing. They need guidance and direction on the strategy for attracting qualified franchise candidates. And then they need a strategy for franchisee to execute locally for their grand opening. So those are the 3 that every single brand needs. They name them in different orders based on how many units they've sold or how many are in their pipeline and getting ready to open. So we balance them by really just walking with the team and saying and understanding. We do an audit, we see where they're at, what's good, what's bad, what's missing, and then we make our recommendations and we really just get to work. And then we meet with them weekly and advise them. So everybody has their own track, but they're all following the same playbooks that we've written and the same proven strategies and tactics that work in franchising. Where we make them different is they're so hyper unique and specific to their niche and to their industry. And it makes them stand out because we know what their competitors are doing. We know what's in the space. We know what's going on in franchising. So we have a lens that is pretty vast that we can pull resources and success clues from other industries and brands in franchising and apply them and help them grow faster. So everybody needs the same thing, to answer your question, in different orders. We're also just very organized people. And we think about marketing all the time, and we'll wake up in the middle of the night and have an idea for one of our partners and then put it into action in the same way that their team would, but we're not distracted by running the brand because we're running point on the direction versus running the brand. So that's really how we stay organized and top of mind for what each of them need. That's amazing.
And then, so with your portfolio, when you expand that portfolio or step into a new brand, what is that first thing that you do assess then? And then I know you talked about different prioritizations of like your marketing initiatives, but what would be that very first thing that you assess?
Well, with all good brands, you first look at the leader and you get to know the leader. And in my opinion, forming a great business rapport and relationship with the leader is the first place we start. So we actually do a leadership interview and a one-on-one where we want to know their likes, their dislikes, their family, their children, their dogs, their pets, what they do for a living. Because when they're having a bad day and I can see it in their eyes and they're tired because franchising is hard, I know how to relate and I know how to tell a story that will make them feel like they're seen and valued and heard in a time that's really challenging. Wow. So the first place we always start is by understanding the leader, and we do some pretty extensive work there. The second place we start is understanding the brand, and there's a discovery process there, and we have a list of resources we request, and understanding what's there today for brands. But then we just start really circling where are the holes in the bucket, and then how do we go first and triage the most important one to fill, and then we just start knocking them off. When you've been doing it for a while and you've seen all the trends in the different industries, it's very obvious what they're missing. It's not obvious to them, but it is obvious to us. And so that's why it's great working with an outsider who really just knows this lane, is because I could tell you what you're missing and it's right in front of your face, and then you see it and you hear it and you're like, oh my gosh, it was right there all along, and you just didn't have exposure to it. So part of it is just being that mirror for the leaders also.
Absolutely. Brooke, you mentioned trends. So I wanted to ask too, as you know, we're kind of coming to a close in 2024, which is crazy. We're already jumping into Q4. What would you say the biggest trend or challenge you're seeing franchise brands trying to solve?
Easily the biggest challenge I see franchise brands trying to solve today is understanding the consumer in a post-pandemic world. And I have seen and recognized that AUVs are down in most franchise brands because consumer spending is down, and it is also an election year. So if you look at cultural trends going on and you think, let's say you're a brand today that has sales that are down. Don't just look at what's going on inside of your 4 walls or 4 miles or the 4 blocks around your business. But if you look at the cultural trends that are happening in the way people are spending their money and their habits and the way they're spending their time, is almost always where brands go wrong, because they look at what's true in front of them versus what's true around them. And what we are seeing today, one of the biggest trends is that the Gen Z buying demographic is one of the highest spenders and buying demographics in our economy today. And they're the most misunderstood and mismarketed category for franchise brands. And so when you have brands that used to have a millennial mom who was 35 and now she's 40, and she used to get her hair done, her nails done, waxes, blowouts, lashes, group fitness, all of those categories are struggling immensely because she left the workforce. She's at home. She's taking care of her children. If she is at home and she did go back to work, she's working from home. So her needs are very different. They probably also have a home gym now. There's free content everywhere for fitness. She might not want to have a sty in her eye and get her eyelashes done because you can't really tell on Zoom. Nails are less important. Like the trends that used to be there pre-pandemic are really hitting the consumers hard, and brands are now feeling that rapidly. And it happens gradually over time, and then suddenly everything is different. And so what's going on in franchising is brands are really like having a head fake going, which way do I look?
Right.
But what's interesting is that demographic also wanted promotions. They wanted a discount. They wanted a good deal. Gen Z wants value and experience and cool and vibe and culture.
Totally.
And they just want completely different things. And so then there's like, oh, well, how do we speak to the Gen Z? Let's get on TikTok. Like that's not the point. You know, the point is, do you have a product that relates to the highest spending demographic today? Gen Zers are maxing out their credit cards every single month. Every single month. Whereas the millennials and the Gen X are like, ooh, we got to cut back, and maybe I'm going to hit Aldi or a discount grocery store because groceries are really high, and I have kids in school, and we have a business and a house payment and mortgage, and interest rates are changing in the real estate market, and there's just bigger demands on that industry, and so they're spending differently. But brands today have not shifted their approach and who they're marketing and what their product can do and solve and how it can relate to the people that are spending the money. And it's something that I have seen almost all franchise brands miss, except for the new emerging ones that are coming out of the gates targeting Gen Z from the get-go.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So what would you say with technology too, kind of being a major player in that brand consistency as well? Like what role would you say like digital transformation plays in the work you do with franchise brands? And even if technology has anything to do with that Gen Z demographic? Technology
has an immense impact on franchise brands and on relatability. So a franchisee's expectations to run a social media platform. Number one, we're almost in 2025. If you do not have a social media strategy and you are a brand and your content is marginal, you are not going to make it.
Right.
Like it is black and white. There is no gray area. And the brands today, when you see technology shifts, what I have seen is that now franchise brands are coming into this space and they have a brand fund fee and they have a marketing fee. And the marketing fee is to cover an in-house digital ad strategist and an in-house social media person who's doing that on behalf of the franchisee. So instead of farming it out to vendors or for franchisees to do themselves, brands now are saying, we're going to bring it in-house. We're going to charge a separate fee. We're going to manage our own team. And we're going to do it on their behalf. The challenge with that, the biggest risk with that is then the brands are also assuming risk of leads and lead gen for the locations. So a franchisee can call you up and say, Mary, it's your fault. You didn't deliver digital leads to me. I don't have very good social. It's not really great. It's not working. It's your fault. Versus I'm a franchisee and I own the responsibility for my digital ads, for my social media, for my community marketing, for my impact. But that's also a really big jump for a former banker or lawyer or teacher or mom to say, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, a finance person, a social media person, a marketer. I'm going to be in the community. Like, there's so many hats for a franchisee. So brands are getting savvier in the resources they're providing with technology, but there's still just a miss with how to curate the local, hyper local, really rich content on social media. Mm-hmm. And I would say the other biggest trend is brands are relying too heavily on digital ads to do the lift for lead gen, because I have a theory, Hallie and I have a theory that ChatGPT is going to flip all the meta ads on their head. And the way people are searching is on TikTok and ChatGPT, not through SEO, not through Google search, not through coffee shop near me. Like, things are changing rapidly in technology, and so is search. And so brands that are like, oh, we're doing digital ad spend on behalf of the franchisees, it's not enough. And if they're not in the community, the brand will not make it, because you cannot ever predict what's going on in technology enough to be that forward facing to help a franchisee only rely on that. Mm-hmm. So it is becoming a tool that people are really trying to get creative in using, but it's also becoming a crutch for lead gen. And the number one way to build a franchise location is still in the community, and still by being the face with the people and the businesses and building rapport.
100%. I mean, the first thing we all do when we look at a company is we go to their social. At least I do. If I'm trying out a new restaurant, I go to their Instagram and I look at all the different pictures, But
you're Gen Z, right?
I'm 1997, so I'm borderline Gen Z and millennial. But
so that's like Hallie. She's like a hybrid millennial Gen Z, and she owns both identities to her core. Like, she could come in and out of like millennial behavior and of Gen Z behavior.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is you just validated even like the way you search for restaurants, for food, for coffee. I want to see a really great picture. I want to see who goes to the restaurant. I click on who's tagged themselves there to see like-minded people. So that is how I search to make decisions. And I'm probably right in the middle on millennials of age, but it is fascinating how it does direct audiences different today.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally. Okay, so jumping into engagement and relationships, how long, Brooke, would you say a typical engagement with a franchise brand is? And do you have long-term relationships, or I know you talked about having some project-based too?
For us at Momentum Brands, we tend to partner with brands for 2 to 3 years.
Okay.
1 year is our annual. We have annual agreements for our work, because when we come into the team, we want to deliver quality and consistency. And so for us, that is every single week over the course of a year, we will take you from point A to point Z and get you all of the way through and deliver an end result. Most of our clients renew for a second year because they are well into consumer marketing, friend dev marketing. Then they start selling franchise units. They're like, we got to get these things open. So then they roll into grand opening. And the biggest tip that I would give any brand is it always takes longer than you want it to, and really curating a strategy that is scalable, consistent, and going to impact the franchisee versus, hey, can we get something in 6 weeks and we have a grand opening? We get this call a lot. We have a grand opening coming in like 6 weeks, and can we get some things in order? Well, the answer is no. You should have been doing that 90 days ago. So what you're doing right now is what you're doing right now, and there's really not a lot of impact you can make in 6 weeks unless it's compounding upon 90 days of behavior. Then 6 weeks you could put pedal to the metal. However, the course of an engagement for us is really about seeing the brand through, building the infrastructure, helping them curate a team, training, resources, webinars, monthly reporting systems for their marketing teams, plus all the consumer work, plus friend dev work, plus what's going on in grand opening. So we're really building their department from the ground up. And then when you hit like year 3, it's really kind of like maintenance model. Like, we've got things in place, and then we still want to advise you and keep the wheels on the bus, but they're really like at a different point. And so, and some of my original clients I still am in touch with, and I send text messages to regularly, and I check in on their business just because I care deeply about them.
Yeah.
So there's never really anybody that falls off of the platform for us in general, but it ends up usually being a 2 to 3 year engagement for most brands.
Nice. That's amazing. How do you balance delivering immediate results with also building sustainable strategies for the future?
Well, a great example of that is what we call triage. We have opportunity every single week to say, what is the most important conversation we need to have today?
Yeah.
So if you are entering Q4 and you don't have a Black Friday special, or you're not selling gift cards, or you have a new product launch that's coming, you're going to say, time out. We need to pause on the in-depth franchise development strategy, and I need some really good holiday offers we can curate today and get them in place so the franchisees know. So real-time triage is what we call it, like the business fires that come up all the time. Like those are the things that it is so valuable to have an ace player on your team that could just say, this is the way you go, especially when time is tight. Because there's time, there's quality, there's cost. But if time is really tight and you need a solution fast, you better hope that you have someone you can call that's like an expert that has done it before, and you don't have to second guess their directive. And then whereas like the long lead projects is like over the course of time, we can guide you, because franchise brands are like cruise ships. And if you could picture a cruise ship, or if you've ever been on one, they turn very slow.
Yes, they do.
So if you're trying to turn the entire business, it's not fast. And it shouldn't be fast, because you want data, strategy, implementation, tools, resources, your team, all of the pieces to be in place to really have it land. So that's the work we do slowly, and we go as fast as we can, but as slow as we must in order to get it right. And then we're able to also do the quick stuff, which is like the day in, day out triage if there's an issue going on. Or your marketing team leaves and you're like, I have an issue. Okay, great. Do you want us to pick up some slack while you're hiring somebody else? And is there something else we can support with? So it's really, I hope that answers your question, but it's a balance of really quick lead time and turnaround, and then long lead, which is, most franchise brands are building to exit. So how do we help them get there?
Yeah, no, I think that was a phenomenal answer. Thank you so much. I wanted to talk about like overcoming perceptions. Do you find that franchise leaders have misconceptions about working with a fractional CMO?
I think some do. I think first of all, let's define target audience. When you say franchise leaders, for us, our target audience is a CEO, president, or founder of a franchise brand. So when you think about all the things and the irons in the fire that these people have, they're running the team, they're looking at fran dev, they're looking at marketing, they're looking at sales, they're looking at training, operations, build out, construction, manuals, leasing, franchise agreements, and oh, by the way, everybody calls them and tells them all their issues.
Yeah, of course.
They never get the calls that's like, you're doing a really great job, Mary. Yeah. I just wanted to tell you thank you. Nope. They get the calls that's like, Mary, I got a situation. My social media sucks. I don't have any digital leads and nobody's walking in my door and it's your fault. Like every single call they get is a problem. 9 times out of 10.
Wow.
So the person they call is us. They say, hey, what do I do? How can I slow the train down and get all the pieces in order and get the puzzle pieces are there, but I need to put them in order and I need to paint the picture so the franchisees can see the picture, so they believe that there's a plan and a strategy, so there's less reactivity and more productivity, because it's better to prepare than it is to repair in business and in franchising. So if you can prepare yourself, if you can prepare the brand, if you can prepare the system, franchise system, then there's so much less repair that goes on at the franchisee level. That is actually what's great. So when franchise brands, they have misconceptions of what a fractional is. Some people think we're going to come in and run their team. I do think there's probably franchise fractionals that may do that come in and they're like an interim CMO while they're recruiting and building a team. That's not purposeful of what we do. That's not the model that we have at Momentum Brands. We lead and direct the strategy, and then we curate and document the tools that the brand needs. And the brand does everything in the middle. They teach their team, their vendors, their franchisees, their rollout, the training, the relationships all live at that level. So if there is a misconception, it's largely due to it's a really new category in franchising. When I started this 3+ years ago, like there was nobody doing it really. And now you do hear of more fractionals or like a fractional CFO. But specifically in marketing, it's so culture based that a lot of times the marketers live inside of the brand. So one of the misconceptions is, how could you come in and lead the brand and teach? And really we're strategists at our core, and we can get up to speed pretty quick on what it is that you're doing and your goals are, and then elevate it. So I'm sure there are misconceptions with brand leaders, but most of the time when I speak with them, they all have the exact same needs. It is, we need somebody to point us in the right direction, and we want to grow, and we want to do it better, and we want to be prepared. The number of franchise brands today that want to be prepared before they sell units is very impressive, because it used to never be that way. They used to sell, and then get prepared. Yeah. And now all these emerging brands are saying, Brooke, I want to have my grand opening guide before we turn on the FranDev machine. Well, I find that to be very responsible. It's kind of refreshing. So yeah. The perceptions change, but I think we do a fair amount of job of educating on LinkedIn, on our website, and discovery meetings to help them understand that.
Yeah, I love it. That's so great. And you mentioned too that it's fairly new. So what advice would you have for franchise brands that may be hesitant to outsource their marketing leadership to a fractional CMO?
Consulting is new. You could call it consulting. You could call it fractional CMO. So consulting has been around for a really long time. Right. So what's interesting is most leaders believe they have a marketing problem, and they are unaware that they have a leadership problem. So what we do is, especially because I was head of marketing and then we took the company through an acquisition, and then I became president of the brand, and then I had like a pretty expansive role. So I've seen all sides of the business, not just marketing. So when it comes to, we have a marketing problem, we can help you solve that. What's fascinating is they also don't realize they have a franchisor leadership problem, because there's the brand and then there's the franchisor. And those are different machines, and most emerging brands have never been a franchisor. So there's a learning curve to that we also advise on, which is really the franchise leadership side, which is separate from marketing. It's always insightful to me when I get a phone call and they say, hey, I have a problem going on at the board level. Hey, I have a issue with a vendor or a regional director, regional developer, or a franchisee. Can you give me some advice? That's not marketing. That's franchise leadership. And so that is like the intangible work that really is the sticky factor for us, separate from the actual marketing work we do.
Interesting. Okay. Getting a little deeper here. What does success and failure mean to you? Two separate questions.
Well, I don't think you could ever succeed without failing.
Love that answer.
There is absolutely no way you could separate success and failure, because I have failed more times than I have succeeded. And I think success is just knowing that you have to pick yourself back up and do it all over again in the face of failure and in the face of success.
Yeah.
So there's this old parable, and it's like this man, and he gets this horse gifted to him. It's like this old Chinese proverb, and the neighbor, who's the farmer, says, oh my gosh, it's so great, Mary, you just got this horse. You needed a horse. And he says, who's to say if it's good or bad? Wow. And the person's like, whoa. And he's like, no, who's to say? Is this good that I got the horse? Maybe right now. Is it bad that I got the horse? If the plague comes a year later and then the horse dies and I'm upset, like, who's to say if anything that happens is good or bad? And so if you look at the same thing in success, who's to say if the work you are doing is success or failure? Who's to say? Like, whose point of view? Is it yours? Is it your franchisees? Is it your mom or dad's? Is it your inner critic? Because I could promise you, I could look at every situation that felt like the end of the world in the moment, and it turned out for my good because of divine order and your path and your intention. So if you're in alignment with your purpose in life, for me, success and failure is the yin and the yang. You need light and dark. the darkest of days makes it so easy to see the light. And it's the same thing with failure. When you feel like you're failing, it makes it so easy to see the wins, but you also have to train your mind to see it.
I love that answer. Thank you, Brooke. That's so great. What sets your approach as a fractional CMO apart from others in the field, especially in the franchise space? How do you stand out?
Well, I could tell you, I don't know what the others are offering.
Sure.
I'm not somebody who's like digging around on websites thinking, what's their model? Like, I think there is, first of all, there's nearly 800,000 franchise brands, and that's just in franchising. And there's 300 new ones emerging in the category every single year. So if there's 2 or 3 of us in the space, there's plenty to go around, and there is a type of leader for a type of brand. It's like family members. You got an extended family, there is a unique type of person, and you could find the artist, and you could find the dreamer, and you could find the doer, and you could find the driver and the mother, and everybody has the thing. And I just have this belief system that like who our competitors are attracting and partnering with matters to them. I'm an infinite game person. I think more equals more. Yes. And there's plenty to go around. So I don't know necessarily how we compare. I can tell you what we do exceptionally well is energy, enthusiasm, celebration, the culture of innovation and belief, and making you current and relevant in a marketplace that is old and stale. Like, we are excellent at that, despite all the franchise marketing things we offer too.
Amazing. Thank you. Next question I want to ask is more about you. So I want to hear about Brooke. What are your hobbies? What are your passions? What does your typical Saturday look like to you?
Well, there are so many versions of Brooke. I am a mom, and I have a 3-year-old boy who is wild and hilarious. And Saturdays would normally be playing outside or t-ball or doing really great things with him. I would say all the different versions of me. I am a serial optimist and personal development believer. It's just who I am to my core. I've been that way my whole life. I am an athlete. I work out. I play golf. I am active all the time. I also like to slow my mind and bird watch, which is the oldest hobby on the planet, and it is the most satisfying. And I am so obsessed with hummingbirds and how teeny tiny they are, and how magnificent these little creatures are, and the amount of power they possess in the tiniest little body.
Do you go any specific? Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I have.
I heard hummingbird feeders.
Yeah, so I plant hummingbird flowers so that they're attracted to them, and there are certain types of flowers hummingbirds love. I also have a number of hummingbird feeders, and I strategically put them in front of my kitchen window. So when I am washing my hands or cooking dishes or talking to my son at the island, I look out and I'm like, there's a hummingbird. And they have seasons in Kansas City. It's usually March to end of September. I have not seen one in about a week, and they're migrating south. So I have come into this hobby and now know how to attract them and see them and listen to them. They have a different sound now, so I can spot them when I'm out and about. This is funny, but a hobby of mine, I love sending voice texts to people.
Me too.
Because I have so many people that matter to me in my life, and we have such limited time to spend or to see them. And I'm like, if I could just tell them what I'm thinking when I'm thinking it, how much it would impact them. So I do that every single day. That's a daily habit. I read, I listen to podcasts. I love my work and craft and my team and my people. I'm busy all the time. I have lots of hobbies, but
it's good to be busy.
They're usually related to health and wellness.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Happiness.
Do you have a specific place that you like to work out, or is it like an at-home workout? Or
I used to have about 6 boutique gym memberships, to reference the stat that I gave you early.
Sure.
Pre-pandemic, I was a boutique fitness junkie like the whole world. I now today have built a home gym and work out here every morning. I also wake up at 5 a.m. So it's nice to just walk downstairs and do my workout there and get on with my day. I would say I've lived like an entire day before everybody wakes up in the family. So, Yeah, so I work out here, but I lift weights. I do like in-home Pilates and weights, and I have a trainer.
Love it. That's amazing. And you're in Kansas City. Were you born and raised there?
Was born in Western Kansas, but grew up in Kansas City. So this is home, and it's been that way my whole life. Yeah.
Amazing. So you're a Chiefs fan.
I'm a Taylor Swift fan.
You're a Taylor Swift fan, of course.
No, I'm kidding. Big Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, Chiefs fans. Yeah. I grew up actually. The Royals were really hot when I was growing up, and St. Louis and the Cardinals and the Royals would have like the I-70 rivals. Totally. And I just remember like, oh my gosh, all the games that we went to, we had season tickets. And then now, as of late, the Chiefs have really just taken off with Mahomes. So it's really, Kansas City is growing rapidly because of it. It's really fun. I don't want all of the people to move here, but I definitely love the vibe. Yeah.
It's so much fun. I mean, there's nothing that beats like fall or winter Chiefs game at Arrowhead. There's nothing better. It's my favorite thing.
Unless it is over Christmas and then you are standing in a sleeping bag screaming your lungs out. Yeah.
Yes. December 21st or December 22nd, I will be at that game, one of the games there. So it'll be a really chilly game. I'm excited.
Yeah. So fun.
So fun. Yeah. The Chiefs are too fun to root for. They're just so fun. I love it.
I think people either are obsessed with them or loathe them.
Or hate. Yes. So true.
There's no in between.
There's no in between. Agree. Well, Brooke, thank you so much for your time today and sharing all about your incredible journey and your experience. It was so good to have you.
Thank you, Mary. I loved getting to talk with you, share franchise insights, talk about marketing, feel your energy. I love what your team is doing too at DevHub, and it was a pleasure.
Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure as well. All right. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and stay tuned for more episodes coming soon on Breadcrumb.